How you doing, Bill?
We're doing fine. Sitting here watching the water out there, and it is really churning.
Yeah, it's pretty windy. That's
Yeah.
for sure. Hey, Jody, how are you?
Hi, Dan. I'm fine. How are you?
Not too bad.
We've got some more wind out here too in Enumclaw.
Yeah, I bet.
It's 80 and sunny. But an hour later, apparently. Thanks, Dan. We needed it. We
Yeah.
definitely needed it.
It's blustery today and the sun is out, but it's chilly.
All right, we got a couple of presentations, so let's get her started. Approval of January 28th minutes.
So moved.
Second,
All right, minutes pass. And brings us to number 2, Parks and Rec and Senior Services Master Plan presentation.
Yeah, so hello, everyone. Nicole, Assistant Director of Parks, Rec, and Senior Services, and I'm gonna just go over our plan update a little bit with you, as well as Kyle will jump in in a little bit later. So I just wanted to, I know you guys got the memo in your packet, but basically our Parks, Recreation, and Senior Services Master Plan was last updated in 2016. And it's a requirement to update it every 6 years for us to maintain our grant eligibility for certain funding categories, which include our local parks. So the Municipal Facilities Committee will be kind of the primary committee that we go to for support and updates on this plan. And then I'll also go over it a little bit with Economic Development Committee as well. So the main objective of the plan is to incorporate the changes since the 2016 update and respond to just different community need. So the 6 main categories that are required in this plan update. The first one is goals and objectives, which we'll kind of just look to update past goals and respond to both public and city council suggestions that come up. The second one is inventory. So we'll look at existing facilities and add a lot of the new properties that have been acquired, including Van Gaskin and the Midway Park parcels. The third kind of bigger piece is public participation, which this category will be a bit different this time around just due to the current pandemic. So we're going to be creative in conducting some online surveys, putting on workshops virtually, potentially utilizing some listening posts and doing other outreach. There's been a lot of kind of good suggestions that we're going to look into. The fourth category is the demand and needs analysis. So this piece sort of balances public demand with our city's capacity. And we plan to review our current demand analysis and focus on responding to kind of our city's changing demographics. One big piece of this is sort of estimating future need. So participation, just an example for you, participation by age group is kind of one key consideration we're looking into, as varying, physical demands in different activities can kind of encourage or discourage participation in sports and activities. Another one is land use. So land use has impacts on recreation, such as, more density will suggest that we need to look for more parks and open space, which we have been doing a pretty good job of in the past. The fifth is the capital improvement program. So we will look to update the CIP to be consistent with our current city adopted CIP. And we'll include, removing completed projects we have done, as well as listing, like I said, the new land acquisition and development. And then finally, plan adoption. We'll need to adopt this plan by the end of this year, so December 31st, and it has to be approved at council level, including all of the criteria I just mentioned, as well as a copy of the ordinance that will indicate that it has been adopted. And I will let Kyle just briefly touch on a few more things, but then we are open for any questions or comments. And like I said, we will definitely keep you informed and updated as we get started on this.
Yeah, so thanks for everyone for having me today. I'll just echo a couple of things that Nicole was mentioning in her opening speech. We as Des Moines serve as kind of a melting pot for people who are moving from South Seattle, Tacoma area into this area, greater Des Moines area. And with the continued expansion of Pacific Ridge and the open spaces that we're getting there, we find that this is a great opportunity to kind of develop what we see the future coming, involving the Highline School District and reaching out to the teachers that are in that system. The school district itself is extremely diverse, so we feel like we can incorporate ideas that come from different parts of the city, from Pack Ridge to North Hill to Woodmont, and kind of gather ideas that not only the youth see, but as Nicole mentioned, the differing age groups and user groups that we can kind of incorporate moving forward. So we just feel like this is a great opportunity, and obviously with COVID, we'll have to be a little bit more creative on how we can kind of get input. But I think we're more than ready for the task, and creativity is something that we excel in. So we're excited for it.
Councilmember Banks.
So Nicole and Kyle, two things. One, I see that, of course, we don't have our rec manager, so it looks like you're looking to hire a consultant to support this, which means you don't have a lot of time. And then the other one is gathering ideas with such a diverse community, the how and when. Not that you may know that right now, but that's going to be of interest to us. Because again, this is February, and you're looking to present this to council prior to December 21st. So if you back that up, I'm not sure how much time you really have. So do you have any ideas in terms of how you're planning to do this? And I mean, looking at what we passed in 2016, you know, we've got quite a few things going on here.
Yeah, so I'll just jump in and say, basically, so luckily this is just a plan update, not to say that it's not going to be a lot of work, but we are, due to the fact that we are down a recreation manager, we're planning to do as much as we can in-house, but by bringing on a consultant in whatever capacity that looks like, we will at least have, you know, some assistance with timeline and what they think should be kind of prioritized. And so I don't know currently what kind of order of things we'll be doing. I know the public outreach piece is the biggest that needs to start, you know, as soon as possible. So we wanted to bring it to these two committees and then really get going on bringing a consultant on board and figuring out kind of our timeline and milestones.
So are you looking for approval for the consultant and doing surveys with the community? Is that what you're looking for?
No,
I
I think
can
I didn't
go
think
ahead.
so.
Okay. Well, I jump in there. I mean, I think right now the idea of today's meeting is just to keep you informed and to get any big issues that you might have out on the table. So as we proceed, we make sure we don't miss anything that's important. I think that with COVID and everything, we're going to be probably doing a lot of online outreach. The last time I personally participated in a Parks Rec master plan update, we contacted the teachers and we got the kids to fill out some information. And it might look a little different this time because we did in-house and the teachers were so thrilled, you know, going out to the schools and they're like, yes, take my class for a day. But it'll probably be more either Zoom or written material. But I think, you know, trying to reach some of our young people and also some of our more diverse community, because, you know, different demographic groups, their needs related to Parks and Rec may be different, and maybe soccer is big. And it happened on the last one that I worked on, cricket. I was like, I didn't even know how to play cricket. So, you know, there may be different things that we're missing. And so that's the main thing for you guys tonight, is just to keep you informed and let you know that it's coming, so you're not surprised when you see that information go out on the website.
So Susan, how has and how will this COVID situation impact what we know very well kids will want, which is to play and to be in contact with others.
Yeah.
You know, those are things I want you to make sure you guys keep in the forefront when you're talking to or Zooming or whatever you're doing, because there's only so much, I guess, until this eventually blows over. I don't know, but kids right now are craving contact and in sports and being outside. So
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah,
And I think that
Louisa,
I'm sorry. Oh, go ahead.
yeah, no, Louisa, if I may. So a couple of points. One, I think it's interesting, the nexus you make in terms of, and what Susan's talking about, in terms of diversity of opportunities will appeal to different aspects of our community. And so one thing that we've done that I think is just phenomenally great is completely try to revise the drainage from the field house fields, which are primarily used for soccer, but also enhance the quality of the experience the kids are going to have on that field. The other part of it is an emergency management piece that you're raising. And our position, which we talk with our emergency operations center often, and our fire and police, is that we are going to err on the side of caution, because even in the best possible sense, when you get kids out there playing with teams and they're going to observe social distancing, which is, if you've ever seen a 4-year-old soccer team, it's like a beehive and it moves around the ball very closely together. But the thing is, there's no assurance we can keep the parents from behaving in the same manner. So those are just some of the challenges to reinstitute activity opportunities and still stay safe. And so we
Right.
will be erring on the side of caution. Just
okay.
And I think this plan will be looking long-term. So it's looking past COVID. It's looking at needs for property acquisitions and programs in the long term. So hopefully we'll be out of COVID at some point. And so this plan will look beyond that. as
Okay,
well.
so we look forward, I'm sure, to the next briefing when you've got some of this under your belts.
Deputy Mayor Mahoney.
Thank you. Great information. I'm interested in what the survey looks like, and more details about how you're going to get that out in probably multiple languages. And also, I've been extremely impressed with your property acquisition in the past, and I can't wait to see what you're looking at as we move forward in the future. That's all I got.
Thank you. I don't have anything that hasn't already been said. So if staff is done, we really appreciate the work you guys have put into this and the work you're going to. We can move on to, are we done? We can move on to number 3.
Yeah, thanks.
All right, we got Marina condition assessment discussion.
Good evening, committee members, council members. Katie and I are going to kind of tag team this presentation. I'm going to do a share screen here and get this started, and hopefully this will work. Council members, if you think back, we're coming up almost within a week here. I can't remember the exact date of when we established the declaration of emergency a year ago for COVID. Scott and Katie and I had fully intended to be doing this master plan update last year, but COVID has really put a damper on our schedule. But we were able to get a few things done last year, and you'll hear about that tonight in our condition assessment report. But we're ready to move on and get our master plan update complete. And so we want to give you an update of where we're at tonight. So Katie, take it away. Katie, are you there? Can't hear you. Can you guys hear me?
We can hear you.
Katie, I see you, but I can't. Are you saying? Oh my goodness. You're doing this on purpose. You're going to make me give the presentation. aren't you? Well, let me start while you work on the microphone here. So tonight we want to cover just a few main topics tonight. We want to review the zones, the Marina zone, the waterfront zone, and the Redondo zone. We want to define those and make sure everybody's on the same page with what zones are what. We're going to review the condition assessment report that we just had completed from Reed Middleton. And then we're going to review kind of a draft Marina improvement plan that we have started. There's still some work to do on that, but we want to get some feedback from the committee on that draft. And then we'll review and discuss kind of the schedule and next steps that we have for the master plan update. So here is a map that we've had around for a number of years now that we use to establish kind of what is the Marina and what is the waterfront zone. So everything that's kind of highlighted in orange there in the north parking lot, the north bulkhead, the fishing pier, all of that is in the waterfront zone, as well as the beach park, the Van Gasken property. Everything that's kind of north and east is in that waterfront zone. Everything that's shaded blue is what we consider to be the Marina. It's the water side and the land side of the Marina. And the Redondo zone, we haven't shown it here. It's pretty self-explanatory. It's everything that's down in Redondo. That zone, the revenues and expenditures are tracked in that zone specifically. So the boardwalk, the fishing pier, the restroom, the parking lot, Wooten Park, all of that is kind of what we consider the Redondo zone. So the stuff in blue is where the revenues and expenditures from the Marina are spent.
Can you hear me now, Dan?
Oh, there you go. I can hear you.
Okay. Sorry.
Perfect.
We'll blame IT on that one. Okay, so then going over the kind of overview of the water side of the Marina. Right now, as you can see on your screen, we have about 730 in-water slips. Those range between that 20 to 50 foot with a few end ties. 2/3 of those slips are 28 feet and smaller, and 2/3 of that number are all the covered docks. The guest moorage area holds between 38 and 40, depending on the size boat out in that area. We've got our fuel dock and our travel lift. And then, as you can see, several in-water leases. These are in-water leases, generally boat-related leases. So the Ranger Tugs, Ocean Quest, and a new one coming in here soon, hopefully. For the land side, there's about 9 acres of marina floor. For the marina specific, the tenant parking in the south lot is about 300 plus spaces for all of our tenants to park their cars. The marina office and then the roundabout parking is all considered the marina asset. Our dry storage lot, which sits against the bank, where we usually have, right now it holds the farmer's market stuff and all that. Then we have our dry sheds, our sidewalk. We have 2 restrooms that are on the marina side, one in the south lot for the tenants, one right by the office that's used primarily by our guest moorage guests, and then the few land side leases that we have. The main ones being the CSR Boatyard, Quarter Deck, and SR3 Hospital.
So while we're starting this year to kind of update the master plan, the work has really been going on for a couple of years on our master plan update. We've been looking at a number of things. It really started with a number of meetings that we had with a number of the MMA board members that are shown. Some are even in this committee meeting tonight. So appreciate you guys joining us. That led us to contract with Mark Bunzel, and he's completed his phase 1 report, which kind of cast a vision, future vision and boating demand that we can expect over the next 20 years. We've had some public outreach. We've had presentations at DMMA meetings. We've had a stakeholder presentation at the senior center. Mark Bunzel is also working on some financial feasibility and some financial analysis on a phase 2 report, and that work is still pending, but we expect that soon. We've also worked with makers. They did some waterfront visioning for us that kind of helped us to look at what we want that promenade to look like, the south end of the marina. Of course, we've been working with Robert Holmes on the Marina redevelopment on the land side. We've had a number of community meetings on that and council briefings. We've met on the Argosy ship as well as the yacht club. And we're coordinating those efforts very closely between the land side development and the marina development on the water side. We've been working on a number of passenger-only ferry studies, feasibility study that we contracted with Dietrich RPM. We've contributed to the PSRC passenger-only ferry study that KPFF has done, and we've been working with Peter Phillips and Bruce Agnew and others on coordinating potential passenger-only ferry service to Des Moines Marina. Last year, actually it was the year, we did some geotechnical work along the base of the hill. We did some utility locations and got a base map started for that area where we'll do some redevelopment. And then just recently here over the last couple of months, we did complete our condition assessment report. So the point here is, we're not starting from zero. We've got a lot of work done already. And at this point, we're kind of pulling all of this information together so we can make some decisions about capital reinvestments on the water side of the marina. We know that changes are coming to the marina, some out of necessity and some out of opportunity. The marina infrastructure is about 50 years old at this point. Much of it is at or approaching the end of its useful life. So a lot of the existing systems don't meet present day building codes, and the materials aren't very environmentally friendly. The in-water storage configuration is also not conducive to the market demand that exists today, and that needs to change because the market demand is changing in the future as well. So there's too many small slips and too few large slips. That's what we have discovered as part of our work. So one of the things, our dry storage sheds are in need of repair, and they don't provide a very optimal use of that valuable marina floor. So we've got some ideas of how we can as we rebuild those storage sheds in the future, how we could relocate and adjust those. And so we'll go through that with the committee probably next month. Our covered moorage system is in poor condition with failing timber supports. And some of these are okay, but with a really heavy snow load, they just wouldn't hold up. So I know Scott and Katie and the team down there have been really proactive at getting snow off of those roofs when we do get snow down there.
Hey, Dan, I have a really quick question. I don't necessarily know if it's something that we can talk about today, but those storage units that are down there that people very rarely put boats in, they put a lot of other stuff in them. Have we ever thought about using those or doing something similar and this might be the master plan, where you can have them for crafters or someone selling their wares during, all year round or the farmer's market?
Yeah, that's a great idea, Councilmember Bangs. We have looked at that. We've done some of the work with Robert Holmes, and some of the renderings that he worked on for that space included exactly what you're talking about. And so probably next month, we'll be able to bring you some updated visioning that we have for that space. So look forward to that here soon as we
Cool.
build that space. So
Thank you, thank you.
So for the condition assessment report that we had done, or we had Reed Middleton do, you guys got a lot of these excerpts in your packet, and we're just going to do a little overview. We intend to get that report on our website. We're going to try to create a page dedicated to the master planning, and that so that all the information in one location for people to get to. An overview of that is these are the categories that they kind of rated all the docks when they did their walkthrough. You know, a lot of the stuff that we had, much of the infrastructure fell between the fair to poor categories. And as you can see, poor, while it's not worse, it's not critical, it's not the worst one that it could be, it is showing advanced deterioration. And has a moderate urgency status, which is not good and needs to be addressed. The next slide will kind of give an overview of the docks and all of that. So A through D docks are the ones down by Anthony's. They're in probably the best condition. They range in the good and fair on the different categories. However, E through N, which is pretty much all the covered docks with a few uncovered out at the ends, were definitely in the poor. The timber system, float system, and the covered moorage systems both were rated at poor. That affects over 400 slips. And when you think of us being a 730 slip marina, over 50% of our slips are in this poor condition. The concrete floats, timber pilings, and utilities were, you know, they were fair, but yeah, so that's pretty much. This was the service of life, estimated service of life remaining. So when you think of the marina being 50 plus years old, and you see these numbers where they only have 10 years at best left, you can see that that's not a lot remaining. It clearly identifies M&N dock, which is closest to the office, as being probably needing to get done the soonest. It's a 10-year scenario, and then all the other docks pretty much follow that right after.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just off. Either way, the conclusion of the report, you know, is mostly the age of the marina. I mean, the marina's old. We just had our 50th a year or two ago, so the timber floats and the covered roof structures are pretty much nearing the end of life. The covered areas are expected to have a 10 to 15 year left at best. The deterioration is the part that's always concerning, because it's expected to accelerate as it deteriorates. So those time frames, while are an estimate, you don't know. As things deteriorate, it tends to go quicker. The estimated service of life does not include extreme events and potential changing of environment. So if we end up with a massive snowstorm, and the roofs of some of these docks could just collapse. So it's hard to tell what's going to happen. So it's all in need, all in need.
So one of the things, committee members, the good news about this assessment report is the conclusions that are in the report are consistent with what we have our own understanding of the infrastructure. You know, we've been, Katie and Scott and their team have been doing the maintenance work down there for a long time. So they have a lot of good experience, firsthand knowledge of that. But we wanted to get kind of an outside third opinion to make sure that we weren't kind of overstating the condition of some of the docks. So I was happy to see that we didn't have anything in serious or critical condition, but the amount of infrastructure in the poor category is a bit alarming. We've got some work to do. And so one of the things that we did here, we want to take the information that we got from the Reed Middleton Condition Assessment Report and begin to form what we'll call a Marina improvement plan. You know, many of our other departments have improvement plans where, you know, all of the infrastructure is assessed and kind of analyzed and prioritized as part of the master planning work. So we want to do the same thing here with the Marina infrastructure. And so this is the beginning of that effort. And so what we wanted to do tonight was to show you how we have kind of tiered or layered the work as far as kind of general priority. So we came up with this kind of system to get some feedback from the committee on. Tier 1 is what we would consider like, these are the projects that we think are the most important to work on in the next few capital improvement cycles. So the tenant restroom project on the south lot, we've been working on the design for that. So we want to get construction going on that here soon. These 5 docks that are shown, E, F, G, M, and N, are the ones that are in the worst condition. So we would want to address those docks first in our mind. Each of the tiers kind of have a 4 or in the last tier and 5 docks in each of the tiers. So, you know, the reality is, you know, the E, F, and G docks aren't significantly that different than the other docks in tier 2, but those were the 3 that had the most poor infrastructure in the poor condition category. So we elevated those into the first grouping. M and N dock are obviously the docks in the worst condition. In tier 1, we want to do some work with the dry sheds and the storage lot, and of course that is geared with tied together with the Marina redevelopment work that Robert Holmes and Michael have been working on. And so there's some strategic opportunity for us to do some work there. And while we'll get into a lot more detail next month on that, you know, the idea of why that's in tier 1 is that we think that that will help feed the capital that we need to do more dock replacements in tier 2. We have some debt that's going to expire at the Marina here soon, so we'll have some bonding capacity to do the dock replacements that are shown here in tier 1. But without additional revenue, doing more dock replacements is going to be very challenging. So we've got some opportunities to do some upland development that will help capture revenue that can do future other infrastructure improvements. So the fuel tank, I wanted to mention that in tier 2, you know, our fuel tank down there, is still in good shape. But one of the things we're finding right now with this fuel tank, as well as the one up at the Public Works storage yard, is it's very difficult to get insurance for these tanks because they are getting older. So our insurance premiums and deductibles are outrageous right now. And so we are going to need to be looking at replacing our fuel systems here soon. We've got the tenant hoist here, as well as the travel lift, some other utility type work that's built into the system. So I'm going to come back to this slide in a minute here, but to give you an idea of these first 5 docks, E, F, G, M, and N, here you can see the Marina docks, and M and N dock are right there by the harbor master office and closest to guest moorage. E, F, and G are the first 3 covered docks at the south end. So one of the things that we've heard from Mark Bunzel and and others are, which is consistent with our previous master planning work, is we need to move to larger slips to support more larger boats. And that's consistent with our current demand as well as the future demand. So as we increase the size of slips as we replace docks, the reality is that we need to have wider fairways between the docks to support larger boats. In order to do that, we're gonna have to eliminate some of the docks. And so the reality here is that while we have 5 docks in the first 5 years, we may not be building all 5 docks. We may only be doing 3 or 4 of those docks and readjusting the other docks that remain in order to support larger vessels between the dock systems. So let's see, I'm checking my time here.
Hey, Dan,
Yes,
what's the cost of replacing the fuel tank?
I don't even want to hazard a guess right now. We're looking
Okay.
at that probably within the next 1 or 2 months. I'll have some more information for you. I know Scott Romano and Brandon are working on getting some estimates for that right now. I just have no idea.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Let me just briefly go over the schedule, and then we'll come back to these the draft improvement plan, and I'd like some feedback from the committee on that. So just really quickly, you know, our schedule for this year is laid out. It's in the packet as well. Over the next couple of months, we'll be doing kind of wrapping up some of the condition assessment stuff and revising the scope of our draft improvement plan and putting some more kind of building that to look more like some of the other improvement plans that other departments have, getting some better detail on costs as well as the scope of some of these improvements. Over the next couple of months, we're going to be bringing policy related questions to the committee to get feedback from you on things that have been, some of these are issues that have been proposed by Mark Bunzel that we need some feedback from the committee as well as the council, because it will help shape the scope and the timing of some of the improvements, or whether we do some of the things that have been proposed at all. So we'll be getting into that with the committee in more detail here in the next couple of months. May and June, we'll be having some more community input and community feedback. We're hoping to have a draft of our master plan in that late June, early July timeframe that we'll be able to get some feedback and comments on from the public as well as the committee and council. My hope is that in late May, early June, that we could start some preliminary engineering work on say M and N dock. A lot of these dock systems are going to be somewhat cookie cutter, where we could have a design of a dock and then just move it down. So I'd like to get some preliminary engineering done so we can have a better idea of cost and looking at some alternatives on what those designs would include. And ultimately so that we can start the permitting process for those dock systems. We know how long that is likely to take, and so we want to get started on permitting. And we're not even sure what those permitting requirements are going to be at this point. So getting started on that effort is going to be important. You know, our goal is to have the master plan adopted later this fall. And also once that is updated, then we have to update this part of the city's comprehensive plan, which is likely to be in December. So it's a rough idea of our schedule. Lots still to do this year, but at this point, I'd like, if there's any questions, I'm going to kind of land back on this slide here. And the feedback that we certainly want from the committee is, you know, if we have something that's shown in tier 3 that you think is a tier 1, improvement. That would be really important for us to hear, because we're trying to get some relative priority based on condition, opportunity, and this is what we think makes the most sense, but we want to get some feedback from you. So.
Deputy Mayor Mahoney.
So a couple questions. Will we learn a lot about the pilings while we're doing the Redondo fishing pier? Will you translate some of that knowledge into some of that replacement? Is the first question.
I think that the piling work is location specific. So as we do the dock replacements, you know, each of the piling systems that we go with, and as we end up moving docks around to facilitate larger vessels, it's likely that we'll just put in all new piling. That's my guess at this point, but if we're reusing existing piling, we know that some of the pilings need to be increased in height, because with some of the tides that we're getting very close to the top of the piles in some cases. So we don't need our docks floating off on high tides. So that would be something we'd be looking at during the design phase.
Okay. And then one more question, just because they happen to be attending as well, can you talk a little bit more about how you're going to use the Des Moines Marine Association in this discussion? I know obviously the public, but particularly they've been a great partner representing, you know, the mortgage renters, or some, for lack of a better word. Can you talk about that just a little bit?
Well, it's my hope that they will, you know, if they will invite us, we'll be happy to come and give updates to that group as frequently as we can. And we really appreciate the input that we get from that group. So that would be our intent. So, Michael, you're on mute.
Yeah, there's a couple of things I just wanted to mention. So when we sat down with Todd and Bill Linscott and Ken and a few others a while back, it was at the time we were kind of transitioning leadership at the Marina. And first, so I don't forget, I want to thank Katie and Dan and Scott for incredible job here. And I think one of the things that's really important is to understand that the recommendation from the MMA, at least those particular members, I think very, you know, competent folks who get this, was to come up with a strategic plan. And so I think from those discussions, this is the beginning of what that looks like. And so the translation from concept to let's do a strategic plan to coming up with something, I think that's phenomenal. That's been a partnership. And then I want to talk about this plan a little bit, which is that I think this is just fantastic work. Personally, I can say that I had almost nothing to do with it. But I think this is the way we need to look at the marina, both the land side and the water side. And to some degree, if we ever, you know, if we move forward with passenger ferry service, it's got to be integrated, because what we'll need to do and what council is going to need to do, and this committee and the Economic Development Committee, is help us prioritize the sequence, because we do not have enough funds to do everything. So the question is going to be, and there'll be some logical aspects. We can get efficiencies out of our engineering and design and the actual construction, but we're going to need your help taking a look at this. I want to do exactly the same model for the land side, and then look at how those can be integrated or how they work together, and what on the land side would help feed, you know, we have like a travel lift in tier 3. Well, maybe a 50-ton travel lift in tier 1 is going to generate more revenue depending on boat builders and others. So we need to look at that. But then if you do that travel lift, you're also looking at some infrastructure improvements that have to happen to accommodate it. But nonetheless, those are the kind of wonderful questions that, and I say this positively, you know, council can help sort these out for us. But I think this presentation, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this is just phenomenal work and really lays out what the options are pretty clearly. Thanks.
Councilmember Banks.
I agree, Michael. I think it's really good information. I know there's a lot we've been talking about over the years. Two questions I have. One is, what's the difference between utilities and the electrical system upgrade? That's number one, because one's in tier 3, one's in tier 1. To me, they sort of come together at some point. And then the second one is, I see on our B2 section here that there is the parking system under assets under the waterfront zone, but I don't see that anywhere in here as a, and maybe it's not important at this particular point in time, but I certainly know it's a pain in the ass. So maybe you could kind of give us a little bit more information on that.
Well, I'll take the parking system piece, you know, that's something we're still working on. We have not included it here. While there's a Marina component to that because of the tenant side of the lot, that would be integrated as well with the waterfront zone on the north part of the lot there. So I know Scott and Katie have been working on getting some different options lined up. And so we hope to have some updates on the parking equipment soon. But yeah, you're right. That's another asset that would need to be included as part of an improvement plan. So Katie, can you just briefly, I know we're running out of time, but can you, describe the distinction between the electrical upgrade and utilities?
Yeah, so the electrical upgrade is more towards the electricity along the docks that line those docks. It's all old and it's in a very old seawall. And it notes that the South Park lighting would coincide with that because it's just that side of the marina has not been updated in some time when it comes to the electricity. And then the utilities is kind of more towards like water and the non-electrical side of utilities. So water and updating all of the stuff down there and for that to get to the docks as well. Does that?
Okay. Well, we can talk a little more offline on that. I don't want to beleaguer it right now.
Sure.
All right. Great presentation. The only question I have is, can you email us, those that are interested, the slide deck?
Yeah.
It's got some great information that wasn't in the packet that I'd like to have my fingertips.
Councilmember Dunning, I think one of the things that we'll do, we'll certainly email that to the committee. We'll also put this presentation, the PowerPoint, on the website along with the full condition assessment report. We're going to develop a Marina Master Plan webpage on the Marina's site where we'll have all the documents that people can go and look at and review and provide comments as we go. And so these will be loaded up there hopefully tomorrow.
Thank you very much. Much appreciated. Nice job, Katie and Dan, on your presentation. And yeah, is there anything else we need?
No, it's going to be a lot to absorb, that's for sure. But yeah, thank you.
Perfect. Well, we've got 1 minute left. If there's nothing else, I will see some of you guys in the next meeting.
See ya.
Excellent job.
Take care. Great job.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.